Good morning, you guys. Is the system that we are playing in rigged? I've been watching the markets all morning, and really, we've all been following this throughout the week. And in particular, today, based on some of the things we've seen with Robinhood and with a number of other brokerages across US and the world, really, blocking out certain stocks, it does pose some bigger questions. And the point of this video is I'd love to hear your opinions. Comment down below, share your thoughts on this system. Is it flawed? We're going to talk about power. We're going to talk about authority because basically, as I'm sure everyone's aware, certain stocks, hot stocks, as they say here, like GameStop and BlackBerry and AMC and COS, they've actually been banned out from investors going out and buying them. You literally cannot log into your accounts, depending on what brokerage you're with, and purchase shares of these stocks. And I have to say, I have never seen anything like this before personally. I know that we have systems in place to kind of control the markets, but this seems like more of a unified move. And I'll start by saying I believe clearly the SEC has involvement in this for across the board, all of these brokers in unison to kind of come in with a similar policy. There has to be some influence there. Of course, we know short sellers across the globe or across the US, I should say, have lost pretty significant chunks of money, and there could still be more losses in the future if the stock continues to run up. So they have a very high motivation or a very high priority. It's high on their priority list to try and bring these stocks down in whichever way they can. And again, I'm not trying to say that, I'm not trying to pinpoint manipulation in any way. But one of the things that I thought was quite fascinating was if you looked at GameStop this morning, which we were all watching, pre-market shares were down about 25-30%, I believe it was. And the second that the opening bell came and the masses were having easier access to this stock, we saw this stock just skyrocket. In fact, on a daily basis, taking a look at this on a one-day number, it was up as high as 80%, it looks like here. And then we started getting news of everyone trying to log in and they weren't able to buy the stock or they weren't able to get access to it. I've even seen a lot of people saying that they can't even see their positions right now. And maybe that's just because there's an overload in traffic to these brokerages, which is understandable. But anywho, it's just it's very fascinating to kind of see what kind of powers are putting this in place. I'll speak on Robinhood just for one, which I think is actually, I'd like to think this is a very hypocritical move. I've actually on record came out and talked before about Webull and Robinhood, how I don't support their marketing scheme of 4 free stocks, come in the door, come join us, you beginner, let's get you started with 3 free stocks or 4 free stocks. And then a week from opening up your account, you can start trading options and you can get into these high risk trades without really any screening. And that's their marketing scheme. They've been doing that for the past couple of years. And it's like, when it's in their favor and when they're going to be making money and everything's all good and dandy, they have no problem promoting that. But for whatever reason now, when there's a stock that's shooting up and you have this whole congregation of the internet kind of getting together, well, then they start coming out with warnings saying, well, this may be too risky for you. I saw a bunch of posts where people are talking about Robinhood or other platforms saying this is above your risk tolerance and we advise against it, or we're going to veto it in some cases. So isn't that a little bit hypocritical in the sense that, oh, in normal times, you're a beginner, come in here. We don't really care if you lose money, go get our free stocks, go start trading options. But in this case, well, we're not going to let you do that because this is not safe for investors. We care about you guys now. Again, these are just my opinions here. I could be dead wrong, but that is something that I do find to be slightly hypocritical. And again, the question then is posed, well, what is the bigger picture here? What is driving this? Is this the SEC coming in and saying, Wall Street bets and the internet is manipulating the market? Clearly, if you look at Wall Street bets, they are under investigation right now, as they say, from the SEC to make sure that there's no real planned market manipulation, I guess you'd say. But you would argue, I think many people would argue, that the reverse is also true. And what we're seeing amongst these big hedge funds and money managers and even the news, like CNBC, they clearly have certain stances they take. It could go either way. And I think that's just the strangest part of this system is it totally goes either way. Again, I don't want to speculate on anything too crazy, but is it out of the picture or out of the question that these very powerful people with a lot of influence and a lot of money in this world can pull some strings and they can influence businesses, brokers, They may very well have connections with people on certain boards of companies or certain CEOs of companies where they can sway opinions one way or another. I think there's no question about that. We've seen that time and time again in a number of different cases when it comes to politics and business and Wall Street. So I think the case now that people are really starting to realize is like, I mean, today what it displayed to me. I try to keep the most rational frame of mind. As you guys know from my last video, I have a small position in GameStop, more or less to ride the fun here, and it's been a fun little ride. It's been a learning experience. We can learn a lot from this experience no matter how it turns out, but I'm not as emotionally invested as a lot of other people with hundreds of thousands of dollars on the line, and those people are infuriated right now that they're essentially getting strong-armed by whoever the bodies is that are doing that. It's like they're putting the foot down, and power's putting the foot down and saying it's not fair to do what you want. It's not free. And that's really the discussion that I wanted to talk about today. I don't want to really take sides, but if I did have to lean one way or another, again, without knowing the full story, I should hear all pieces and opinions, which I'd love to hear down below before I make a judgment on this. But it does kind of feel like it does kind of have me leaning towards the retail investors who are, they have the right to invest in what they want. I saw posts of some people saying, well, if I have $5,000 that I want to gamble or speculate, I should be able to put that where I want. It's a free system. Yet now we have these powers coming in and stopping that. So it's really, really fascinating. And it's this whole David versus Goliath scenario that we've heard about. And I think for a lot of people at this point, it's no longer about the money. It's clearly about the money. It's always about the money. But as equal or as big of a picture or priority here is essentially not stepping down and not getting stepped on by the big guys. And with the power, with the stance that we're seeing with the internet kind of congregating together, again, it's making some pretty big waves. And I'm very curious to see how this plays out. And more or less, again, I just wanted to hear your opinion on this whole idea of, blocking out stocks. Again, I think it's rather hypocritical with certain companies or with certain brokerages who, in my opinion, don't really have your best interest. I wonder what the bigger picture is here. But yeah, leave some thoughts down below, guys. That's really the point of this video. Again, I just want to emphasize, and I'll say a disclaimer, this is just an opinion of somebody kind of following along with the ride and just kind of seeing what everyone's talking about. And I have my opinion. It may be right, it may be wrong. You have the right to your opinion. I just want to hear what the thoughts are because, yeah, it's definitely a fascinating one. It's you could argue once or twice in a lifetime type of thing. You don't get these situations all too often. And again, I think regardless of how this turns out, this is going to be a great experience for anybody that's in the market. I don't care if you're an investor, a speculator. If you're in the stock market right now, we're not going to forget about this. And we can learn from this. 10 years down the road, 15 years down the road, we'll be able to look back and see how this played out. And the way that things do pan out is it's going to present a very valuable lesson, whether that's about how the SEC acts, whether that's about FOMO, whether that's about hype stocks or Reddit communities. There's so many things that we are literally living through right now. We're living through history. So that's really thoughts for today, guys. Leave your comments down below. Leave your thoughts, but I'm very curious to hear what everybody thinks about this whole power, putting the foot down, strong holding of blocking out certain investments.